This workshop is navigating the path to great relationships. So here's David Campbell. Hello, my name's David Campbell. I'm here for a workshop with you on navigating the path to great relationships. And one of the things that I've always been very keen on is building that level of communication with your team and growing your team and your client base through a good relationship. So I want to start by asking you a couple of questions first up. And the first one is, I want you to think about the whole concept of how you engage people. Is there a method? Is there a pathway to engagement? Up on the screen, you'll see there's what I would call a number chart. I'd like you just to take 30 seconds, quite literally 30 seconds, and find number one, and then go to number two, and just put a circle around each one. So visually work through your process. Where are those numbers? So take a moment, pause this video, but do that right now. Welcome back. Hopefully you've had a chance to have a go at that. Now, if I said to you that you can actually do that quicker by understanding a sequence, and what I'll do is show you the next slide. And in the next slide, it actually indicates that you can draw a cross through that particular number card. And if you then look, in the top left quadrant is the number one. The top right quadrant is number two. The bottom right quadrant is number three. The bottom left quadrant is number four, and so on. The sequence repeats. Now what I want you to do is have a bit of a think, have a bit of a go at doing that same activity, but knowing what the pattern is. Why don't you pause the video and have a go at that yourself? 30 seconds, see how high you can get. Have a go at that exercise. Did you find that with a random structure, it was harder to engage with the process of finding those numbers, whereas the second time round at having that pattern, it was much, much easier? So if I said to you that there is a way to do exactly that, there is a pattern to every person's personality, then that would put you in a position that if you could understand people's personalities, you could actually engage them in a better way, build rapport in a quicker way. I'm about to teach you how to go about doing that. One of the things that I found in my lifetime with 20 years in the Royal Australian Navy and then another 20 years in executive management, it wasn't until I understood this principle that I was able to engage my team, engage my client base in a much better way, in a quicker way, to actually achieve greater results. So I encourage you to think through this process. But the first thing I wanted to quickly point out to you is that these principles all come from a thing called DISC. DISC is a personality profile. And the interesting thing about DISC is that everything is equally valuable. Every style is equally valuable. I get you to do a quick exercise for me. I'd like you to join your fingers together, and I'd like you to have a look at which thumb is over the top. Having done that, take your hands apart and join them together the other way around. So you've got thumb, thumb, finger, finger, but opposite hands. It feels funny, doesn't it? But you can do it. And this is the same with personality. You can actually move between the different modalities of personality while still being true to yourself. And so what we find, and DISC talks about everyone is a blend of all four styles. And that blend is what makes you unique. The trick is to find what the dominant components of those blends are and speak to those in a situation. We're going to talk about that as we go through this process. Personality is influenced by a number of things, and life experience, education, maturity are all factors that influence your personality. So it's okay to find that in a certain location, in a certain work versus home, your personality will change. That's normal. Understanding yourself is actually the first step to becoming more effective with other people. If you can learn other people's styles, you can actually understand their priorities and their needs, and you can meet those and therefore engage with people in a much better way. You will have heard those conversations in the past, other people purchased. That's speaking to a personality type. So think about that as you move forward in this particular workshop. And the last point I want to bring forward is that you can actually improve the quality of your workplace by using something like DISC to actually build a more effective relationship, just by understanding people in a better way. So with that in mind, let's move forward. The first thing that I do want to say to you is that behaviours, thoughts and feelings, these are things that are close to the surface that we can actually tap into, we can actually see. So personality is right up there with that. But underlying these things are your values, your beliefs, your needs, both met and unmet needs. And we're not getting down into that level of understanding in this particular workshop. So it's a bit like just seeing the tip of the iceberg. So I'd like to ask you to start by simply answering two questions. So get your pen out, get ready to write. But the first question is, are you an action-focused person or are you a thinking-focused person? So if you're presented with something to do you jump straight in and get stuck into it? Or do you take time to think about it and process it and work out what the steps are and those sort of things? So action-focused, thinking-focused. The second question, when you do have this task given to you, are you task-focused, so you want to focus on the task itself, or are you people-focused? You want to actually do this task, but you do the journey with people. You want to do it with other people. And you're more concerned about how that's going to work than actually focusing nitty-gritty on the task. So answer those two questions for me. Action-focused versus thinking-focused, task-focused versus people-focused. And from that, you'll actually find yourself in a quadrant, and you'll see on the screen a diagram that indicates that. So you will either sit in quadrant D, I, S, or C. And this is the key to actually understanding how people think and process things. So if you can ask those questions in your mind of those people as you listen to them, as you talk to them, you'll find out where they sit in those quadrants. And so DISC then brings that to the fore. So it explains in greater detail the D, the dominant people, then the influencers, the steady and the conscientious. There's a quick diagram up there that talks about extroverts, introverts. That's a generalization. The key thing with introverts and extroverts is that an extrovert draws their energy, draws their regeneration from being with other people, whereas an introvert likes to withdraw and be by themselves. But we're looking at the personalities around all of this stuff. Couple of percentages up there to have a quick look at. The majority of people are in the S category, 69%. D's, I's, so D's are 3%, I's are 11%, and C's are 17%. That is a statistic taken across millions of people who have actually done these surveys, and it shows the predominance across the population of the styles that people are within. Now, if you can actually tap into a person's style, then you start to tap into how they think. And if you can then adjust it, your communication to their style, you've opened a doorway to a lot faster rapport building and success building. So let's go in and talk a little bit more in depth around the whole idea of dominance, the dominance people. And there's an image on your screen that says, taking the bull by the horns. Quite literally, that is what the dominant people do. So a couple of things about dominant people. They're people who place emphasis on accomplishing results and on the bottom line. They're very confident people. I'm sure you'll know someone who's dominant, but the behaviors you see, they see the big picture. They can be very blunt. They can accept changes very, very quickly, and they tend to pivot very quickly, and they get straight to the point. No mucking around, no fluff, no chit chat, straight to the point. Areas where they can improve, if you're a D, areas that you can look at improving are things like work on your empathy. Actually try to understand how to be more empathetic. Develop some listening skills. Ds tend to charge straight off and do things, but you need to pull back and develop some listening skills. Watch the cold, hard edges that you've got when you're dealing with people, because you can be very blunt. And be more collaborative in your communication. Engage people rather than telling people. The next one is the I, the influence. Influencers are people who place emphasis on actually influencing or persuading others. Openness, relationships. An influencer is the sort of person who loves to have a conversation, bring people around them. They're the social butterflies. Some behaviors that you'll see with influencers. They show enthusiasm. They are very optimistic people. They like to collaborate. They actually hate being ignored. So bear that in mind. If you've got a strong influencer in your group, your team, don't ignore them. Draw them out. Draw them together with everything that you're doing. Areas where they can improve. Work on time management skills. Influencers are not great at managing time. Understand being on time is actually important. Influencers do tend to turn up late to things, so that then gets people offside. When people get offside, they hate that because they feel as though they're being excluded, and all of a sudden it's just this nasty sort of cartwheel of woe is me. So focus on being on time. Sometimes the big picture can just be that, a set of tasks. And so they need to do that journey in a lot better way and work on goals. So have that influencer thinking in your head. The third category, excuse me, is the steadiness. And the image we've got on the screen there is someone who doesn't want to rock the boat. And as I said, as you will see on those statistics, this is the predominant number of population that we're looking at here. They don't want to rock the boat. They actually want to get things done. They place emphasis on cooperation, sincerity, dependability. They don't like to be rushed. They're very calm in their manner. They're calm in their approach. They are incredibly supportive, and they are very humble. But areas that they could look to improve, things like they need to learn to speak up for themselves. They would put themselves to the side for the benefit of others. So they need to learn to speak up. They need to practice speaking in public. They don't like that. So they don't like being pulled out and put in front of other people. Watch that you don't take on other people's problems. Steady people, steadiness people will actually take on the problems of others to try and resolve them. Be aware that the world is a changing environment and that they need to embrace change. The steady people really do struggle with change, particularly if they don't understand what is happening. So when you communicate with them with that logic, with that people-oriented thinking logic. And the last one is set and execute goals. So watch out for perfectionism. This particular group can get lost in that perfectionism. And then the last group I want to talk about is this conscientious group. Conscientious group are the people who love to dot the I's, cross the T's. Remember our 2 questions that we asked? Action focused, people focused, task focused, thinking focused. These people place emphasis on quality, accuracy, expertise, and competency. So they enjoy working independently. They enjoy being objective in their reasoning. They want detail, and they actually fear being wrong. So remember that. And areas where they can improve, they can understand sometimes it's okay to be wrong. They need to understand that relationships are actually important in getting things done. They will work independently to the exclusion of other people. They need to work on their empathy and their people skills. Watch out for the I can do it best myself and lock people out. And set great goals and achieve them, but most of all, celebrate. They don't celebrate their successes. So this is just a taste of DISC, taste of how you can better communicate. If you want to find out more, come to my booth, David Campbell Coaching, and connect with me. I'm more than happy to spend some time chatting with you, helping you work out the best approach for you moving forward. Anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy.